All right, what's up guys? So in this video, we're gonna be talking about how to overcome sadness in marijuana recovery. Now, I made a little short about this yesterday, and this question came from somebody I was coaching. And it's a really good question because oftentimes when people are quitting, they get to this point where they're like, man, this kind of sucks. Like, I'm gonna miss weed. And this is where a lot of people falter because they're like, they don't know how to work through that sadness and that grief to get back on track and realize that, okay, weed was once a part of my life. However, this relationship is no longer healthy and it's time for me to move on. So the first thing I like to think about is the analogy of an actual relationship. Once an actual relationship ends, if you've ever been through one, there's a period of sadness, right? Even if the relationship was totally toxic, there is moments where, at least for myself, where I'm like, you know, it wasn't that bad, right? And again, coming back to the marijuana, that's usually when people are like, right, it wasn't that bad, was it? And then they go back and start using, and then they're right back in the dysfunctional relationship. And there's a really good rule of thumb, right? Like, take however long the relationship was, take half that time off to heal, to, you know, find yourself again, and then start getting back out and dating. And same goes for weed. Like, you want to be able to feel that sadness, feel the pain, feel the loss, so that you can go into this new phase of life without weed, with that clear head, with that open heart, and knowing that a bunch of new things are coming into your life that are going to be way better than what they were when you were smoking weed. This might take some time too. So the other part of this is patience. So be patient with yourself. And it's not going to be like a one and done thing, right? There's going to be stages of grief. So if you guys don't know what the stages of grief are, it's denial, it's anger, it's bargaining, it's sadness, and then acceptance. And what happens is when you go through grief, you go through these 5 different cycles, and they don't come like sequentially. Sometimes they're like, you know, sometimes you'll feel acceptance, and then other times you'll feel the anger come up, and it's really just working through that whole process. So when I quit weed, I had a lot of denial at first. Then I had a lot of bargaining, like, okay, like it's okay that I'm quitting weed because I have this new life ahead of me, etc. And then the sadness would come, like, oh my gosh, like I have all this stuff I have to deal with, like this sucks. And then the acceptance would come after I'd go through the crying and the sadness. I'd be like, okay, you know, it's okay. I feel way better than I did before. And that cycle continued on for me for quite a while. The most important thing is that I didn't give up, and I kept going through the pain and the discomfort, and eventually I worked it all out of my system. I grieved the loss of not only the weed, but my old life before I started using, because when I was growing up, I had some moments where I was really happy, and because of trauma and stuff, I turned to weed. And so in a sense, I was grieving my younger self, and that took a long time. It may be different for you, so don't be discouraged, but it's really important that you give yourself some time to go through this process. You will start feeling better if you're trying to quit weed after a month or so. Like, you're not just gonna feel like shit the whole time. The universe is gonna give you moments where you feel okay. And those are just the confirmation moments that, okay, I'm on the right path. Another person that I'm coaching actually really helped me see this clearly too the other day, because they're like, hey man, I noticed that in the past, like I would get to 8 months and then I would just feel so bored and I would just want to use again, and I usually would. Okay, 8 months in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of time. It can feel like that in the moment. Like if I were to say like, okay, 8 months from now, like so much of my life's gonna be different. But in the grand scheme of things, 8 months is not a lot of time. So when I was like, hey man, like really, I invite you to think of this in like 2 years from now, right? Like reassess 2 years from now where you are. And he's like, oh, you're right. Like I really need to give myself a year or two to really work through this pain, because I've been smoking weed for like 10 years. And just like in a relationship, a dating relationship, it can take a lot of time to overcome the feelings of that person no longer being part of your life. So very similar to weed. And the last thing you can do to help speed along this process is to get a mentor, get a coach, get a sponsor, somebody that you can talk to about this and have them help work you through this, because it's something that you don't have to go through alone. There are, of course, times where you're going to be alone going through this because you can't talk to someone for 12 hours a day. But having someone to go to maybe once or twice a week where you can really kind of shoot the shit, say exactly how you're feeling, know you're not going to be judged, you're not going to be criticized, that the other person has gone through that as well, is really going to help you in those moments where you do have to be alone and you do have to feel those emotions coming. It's like, it does something to the mind where you may start to be like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Like, this is normal. This is actually part of the process. And it takes away that like kind of fear, like, oh my God, like what is happening, right? It's like, oh, this is just kind of what happens to most people that go through this. And I'm telling you this right now, it is something that goes through for most people. There is a grieving process that happens from any single person I've ever met in recovery that has gotten sober from marijuana or any other substance. There is that grieving process. And the ones that are successful go through that process and find somebody to work with long term that can really help guide them through and kind of tell them some of the mistakes that they made, so then you don't have to. And if that is something that you are interested in, I do offer that support and have helped many people go through the recovery stage of marijuana, get through the withdrawals, find new passion and purpose for life, and really be able to see that, okay, this is something I can overcome and I can be sober long term. And not only that, I can have an awesome life. I think a lot of people, when they start, they're like, oh my God, this is going to be boring as heck. I thought that too. I'm like, my life is just going to suck from here on out. And what I found is life is actually very beautiful and far better than what it was when I was smoking weed. And having a coach myself was really pivotal in seeing that, okay, I do have a lot of awesome things to bring to this world. I am a good person. Maybe I've done some stuff in the past I'm not proud of, but I can forgive myself, I can move on, and I can be the person I always wanted to be on a level I couldn't even imagine. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Because if I look back where I was 7 years ago to where I am today, it's absolutely night and day. And I'm so grateful that I found somebody to help me. So if that is something that you are interested in and that you think could be a benefit to you, then I invite you to book a call with me down below. We'll hop on a 30-minute call and I can get to know you. I can see where you are in your journey. We can find out some of your goals and visions. And from there, if we decide we're a good fit and we vibe, we can take things to the next level and start doing our weekly calls. So again, link down below. If you guys have any other tips on how to get through sadness and grief in recovery, please leave that down below in the comments. I'd love to know. I'm sure other people would like to know as well. Also, stay tuned. We're going to be launching the Sobriety University Community very, very soon here, and it's going to be really cool. There's going to be weekly calls. I'm going to do exclusive content for the community. You're going to get to connect with other people who have gotten sober and who are on the path of just having a great life. That's pretty much how I can put it. And it's going to be a great place to connect, to share ideas off each other. I'm excited to learn from you, as well as share what I've learned along this journey in more detail. You'll get to meet people that have quit through the coaching program as well, and they're going to have a lot of great insight to be able to share with you on how they did it and how they're living life sober today. So I'm just so excited, man. I'm so excited to connect with you guys on a more deeper level, and stay tuned because that is going to be dropping in this next week. With October starting as well, we're going to be doing a Sober October challenge where you can win some prizes at the end of the month. So this is going to be really cool, a fun, interactive way to get and stay sober and connect with other like-minded people. Stay tuned for that, and otherwise, share this video if you know anybody that could benefit from it. Subscribe, and talk to you soon. Peace.